Good to have you with us this evening. Good speech. Concerns regarding what's happening in the Eurozone right now. It's obviously a very hot topic, and
Yes.
given that you are responsible, well, you're the Shadow Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills, I'm sure you have some thoughts on this. What are your concerns about what's happening with Greece and the Eurozone right now with respect to Britain?
Well, I think the first thing to say is, though we are not in the Eurozone, this is obviously going to have an impact on our economy for three reasons. First of all, our banks have a degree of exposure to European sovereign debt. Secondly, what happens in the Eurozone, of course, has an impact on confidence, business confidence in this country. And thirdly, we have over 3 million jobs that are dependent on our exports to Europe.
Exactly.
So this is obviously going to have a big impact on us as a country, and that's why we take an interest. In terms of what needs to happen, the problem we have is that the strategy pursued by the Prime Minister David Cameron, by Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, and also the former French President, President Sarkozy, was one which prioritised growth beyond everything else. And, austerity beyond everything else. And the problem is, unless you get growth, you're not able to deal with your deficits because you have people out of work, you have to pay them benefit, they're not paying income tax. So we need a complete reconfiguration of the approach which has been adopted in the Eurozone area. And that is why we were pleased to see the election of President Hollande, who is prioritising that in France. And Ed Miliband and the Labour team here, we met with him recently before his election. Beyond that, we need a certain number of things to happen. We need the European Central Bank to be properly given the resources to do the functions of a central bank. At the moment, there has not been political agreement to do that. We need that to happen. We need the European Financial Stability Mechanism to be capitalised so that this can step in and deal with our economy, with the Eurozone economy. Secondly, we need stimulus measures along the lines that we've been arguing here, like in our 5-point plan for growth, to bring forward public investment. So we need the European Investment Bank to be properly capitalised to do that. We need the unused structural funds to be recycled and used again. We absolutely must erect a firewall to stand behind the Spanish, Portuguese and Italian economies. If they are at risk of going under, we need to have appropriate measures taken to secure those economies. And we also need to see structural reforms to make sure that the economies in the Eurozone are more competitive. And of course, we must make sure that the economies there are in a position to stand behind their banks in the way that we did in the 2008-9 crash to prevent them from going under. Because do not underestimate the impact of a banking crisis in those countries on the general European economy, including the UK economy too.
Talking about banks and banks capitalising economies, closer to home, a lot of our viewers are SMEs, people who are, running small to medium-sized businesses, and I'm sure that the impact of how the banks are treating them right now will be felt by them very much closer to home.
Yes.
Can you share with us, you mentioned earlier you've been talking to the heads of banks, can you share with us what your feeling is and what your view is about how they're actually going to, are they doing anything, are they going to do anything, or is it just lip service right now?
I think they acknowledge they need to change their culture and return to more of a local relationship banking model. Problem is that those who are often given the discretion to make lending decisions, as many businesses watching this will tell you, is that they are often in some regional office far away from the business, don't understand it, so aren't in a position to properly assess the risk that business poses when it asks for finance. So they need to change their culture in the banks. Now, I think they are beginning to do that, but that needs to be expedited more quickly. In terms of what the government can do, I think the government should be using its influence, particularly in respect of RBS, to insist that we see more borrowing to our businesses. They've put in place this credit easing scheme. The problem with it is that whilst it will reduce the cost of borrowing to existing SME borrowers, it isn't actually ensuring that those who can't get credit at the moment otherwise now get it. So we need to actually look at how that credit easing scheme is working, because I have my doubts as to whether it will deliver for those who can't get access to finance at the moment. And look, in the medium to long term, we've said the government should look very seriously, as we are doing, and as the British Chamber of Commerce has argued for, at a British investment bank, which will step in and address that market failure, that gap, where the banks are not getting money out of the door to our businesses. It's an absolute priority of ours.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.